Following on from the sex and gender core theme, the fourth core theme of feminism is that of equality and difference. And different groups of feminists have embraced contrasting notions of equality, although the vast majority of feminists would argue that men and women should be equal. Some feminists have entirely rejected that notion of equality in favour of the idea of difference. Looking back on our three main strands or groups of feminists, liberal feminists, as we've seen before, argue that for a precondition for female equality would be the necessity for legal and political equality between men and women, particularly within the public sphere. Again, for liberal feminists, the private sphere is an area of personal choice. For socialist feminists, they argue that equality is meaningless unless it means equality in terms of social and economic power or status, something they don't believe is possible within the capitalist system. For radical feminists, they are primarily concerned with equality in the family and personal life. Men and women need to be equal within the private sphere in terms of the distribution of childcare, domestic responsibilities, sexual conduct, and so forth. And until this equality is achieved through the elimination of the patriarchal family, well, then it won't be possible to achieve female equality in other spheres such as the public sphere. Although these three strands have a differing analysis of female inequality and female equality, all three strands can be described as egalitarian, in that in their all different ways, they all seek to achieve equality between men and women. They would argue that gender differences are seen in a negative light, and women can achieve liberation through eliminating the differences between men and women. However, another group of feminists suggests that this idea of equality and the implications of androgyny are misguided. They suggest that women wanting to be equal to men implies that women have to simply become male-orientated and may seek to adopt the competitive and aggressive behavior that characterizes male society. These different or essentialist feminists argue that there are essential differences between men and women, and that for women to achieve liberation, these differences should be celebrated, not eliminated. Within this group of difference or essentialist feminists, there are a range of strategies as to how this could take place. Pro-woman feminists, they accept that sex differences do have political and social importance, and they would advance this positive image of female attributes such as creativity, caring, human sympathy, and cooperation. They would advocate a form of cultural feminism, which has led to an emphasis on a woman-centered culture and lifestyle, such as women's crafts and literature. And they would seek to promote a sense of sisterhood, rather than a genderless personhood, as advocated by other strands. At the extreme end of difference feminism are those feminists who argue that the root cause of female oppression is not the lack of legal and political equality that liberal feminists suggest, nor the lack of unequal economic and social power within the capitalist system, as socialist feminists suggest, or even the dominance of patriarchy within the family structure suggested by most radical feminists. Rather, for these extreme difference feminists, the cause of female oppression is simply men, who are biologically and psychologically hardwired or predisposed to oppress women. It is in the nature of men to subordinate women, and they cannot be reformed. So for these extreme difference feminists, women should take themselves completely away from the presence of men in a strategy described as female separatism, and adopt what is called a form of political lesbianism or sexual lesbianism. In summary then, the vast majority of feminists, whether liberal, social or radical, would seek to eliminate the differences between men and women, achieving equality between men and women. These are known as egalitarian feminists. However, there is a substrand of radical feminists who reject this approach and argue that there are essential differences between men and women, and when women try to be equal to men, it means they have to adopt the competitive and aggressive nature of men, and that therefore this search for equality is misguided, and women should seek liberation through celebrating their differences rather than trying to eliminate the differences between men and women.